Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Frances MacLeod. Welcome to my home in Kansas City, Kansas. I can't wait to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Frances MacLeod. I'm an artist and designer. Welcome to my home in Kansas City. My husband and I have lived in this home since 2021. We bought it the same month that we got married, so it was pretty crazy. But we've lived here for about 3.5 years. We had been looking for homes for a while, and the second we walked in, we loved this home. It has a lot of charm and character. It's in a great neighborhood with lots of big trees, but it had also been really well updated and maintained. So we knew that it was gonna be a competitive buy, and we felt so lucky when we got it. Our vision for the house was really just to make it our own. Like I said, it had been really well renovated and maintained over the years. The house was built in 1940, but several different owners have updated it along the way, and there's a really great addition on the back, and then the upstairs suite is really nice. So we just really wanted to make it our own. The previous owners had renovated a few things, but had incredibly neutral taste. So we really just wanted to add a lot of warmth back to the house and highlight some of the things that made it so special to the original 1940s construction. Welcome to our living room. This is the most formal room in our house, and it's the first thing you see when you walk in. So I wanted it to feel really comfortable, but also it is the most formal room in our house. And we're setting the stage immediately with these two large portraits. We lovingly call them the ancestors. My husband grew up with these in his grandma's dining room, and for a long time he thought this was Abraham Lincoln. We looked it up. It's actually a doctor named Oliver Cromwell Comstock and his wife Hannah. When we first moved into this house, these walls are so large that we knew we needed something big on them, and his aunt was kind enough to let us raid her storage unit. She has some really cool stuff. We were looking at one huge piece that we later learned would cost thousands of dollars to frame, but would have really activated the wall. And actually also found these at the same time, and I loved them. I think they have just their warm faces, they're beautiful portraits, and they have these really great frames with the lights on them. So we're so lucky to have them in our room. And it really feels like they're kind of taking care of us and watching over us. But also I knew we needed to kind of counterbalance all of this seriousness with some other fun stuff. So we have this big console that was in my husband's apartment before we got married that's full of things you might want to use if you're just hanging out in the living room. So we have like dominoes and books to go through and some kaleidoscopes. I love to sit in this room and read in the morning, so this is a chair that works out really well for that. This pair of chairs, I found on Facebook Marketplace. I'd been looking for some club chairs to go in here to match, and I pounced on these because they were a really great price, but I had to drive like 45 minutes to go see them. It turns out they didn't fit in my husband's car, so had to go back that weekend with a U-Haul. The lady was nice enough to hold on to them for me, and kind of mobilized with the lady who does upholstery for me sometimes, and ordered some fabric, showed her an inspiration image, and she knocked these out really quickly. It was amazing, and it really completed the room. They're on a swivel, which is so nice, and they rock, which is great because we just had a baby, so sometimes we'll sit in here with him. But I love this blue fabric. I made these pillows with some really nice fabric that I bought online. I try to mix up some thrifted fabric with new fabric, just kind of balances the budget a little bit that way. These colors are all throughout the house, so it's fun to have them here. I wanted to show you these curtains too. They're from Etsy, like a block printer in India. You can buy so many cool things online. And doing a floral print that's also a geometric repeat is really nice to balance out a lot of the other patterns in here and bring in some red on these. I did add pleating tape to kind of give them a little bit more of a finished look, and just layered them on top of the existing window treatments that were already here. To counterbalance, we've got this wall over here, another big open space over a couch, and we're using a rug that my friend Kay Blegvad made. She had a brief and wonderful collection of home textiles that she's no longer producing, and it's really sad, but I feel really lucky to have these two tigers. I feel like they're kind of goofy and fun, and kind of, a counterbalance to these serious dead people. And they're over this couch that is such a great color of green. This couch is a replacement of the couch that I ordered during COVID when I first moved to Kansas City. I ordered from Interior Define, and they let you specify color and depth and all of that. And they kept pushing back the delay. I kept getting all these emails like, it's gonna be another month, it's gonna be another month, and that's how COVID was. But at a certain point, I got an email from them, and they said that the shipping container holding my couch was part of a large maritime disaster. And my couch was at the bottom of the ocean and was unrecoverable. So they worked with me to find a new couch. This was one that was already in their warehouse. And I was able to just, have it delivered. It's a different color and a different shape than what I initially planned on. But it's such a great, fun green color. And I think it's been a bigger statement than the original couch would have been. But I love the way it kind of comes together with all of the colors in the rug. And I just love using color. So it's fun to have a big green couch. I read somewhere that it was a good idea to add round shapes in design just because there's so many hard lines, straight lines in our homes and in a lot of our furniture. And I accidentally took that very much to heart in this space. We've got all of these little tables that are from a lot of different thrift sales and vintage markets, and they're all these really fun different shapes. Kansas City has a really cool market every month called Urban Mining, and this shape, this clover table is from that market, and we actually got the lamp the same day, and we just like the way they look together. It has a cool little shelf underneath where I can store some things. But otherwise, we've got end tables. This one was $5 at a garage sale. It's very unstable. I plan to glue it later. And then a marble table that I saw in an estate sale and had to have. This coffee table was on Facebook Marketplace. It was at this estate sale out south in Overland Park. And I'd never seen a shape like this before on a table. And I loved the gold detail and the different ornament that was on it. And so I went out to see it, and it was actually larger than I expected. It's not vintage. It's like made in Las Vegas reproduction kind of thing. But that means we don't have to be too precious with it. And it has these round edges, which means you're never really gonna, knock your knee into it. So using an acrylic tray on top to kind of make sure you can still see some of the gold painting. And we have some incense here from travels and a little place to burn it. My husband and I love to travel, and it's always fun to find something small that fits in our suitcase to bring back and then have in our home. I picked this rug in my old apartment because it had a lot of the colors that I was looking for. It was really reasonably priced. I think it was from rugs.com or something like that. And it works well in this space to just kind of, there's a lot of color happening in here, and it kind of ties it in. We also have really high ceilings, and so I think it feels good to have a pattern on the floor to kind of counterbalance all of this volume we have up here. This chair was a find at a thrift store when I first moved here, and it wasn't in lovely shape, but it was a really pretty red, and I brought it home and thought that I could try to restore the leather a little bit, but I also knew that I could paint it too. So I've gotten really into painting on leather. It started with painting on like shoes and clogs, but it works on chairs too. It's kind of like an acrylic paint. And this chair is super fun because it's a more bold graphic pattern than I often do. And the way that I kind of balanced it out was doing it more tonal on top of the red leather so that it wasn't too busy and in your face. I definitely love pattern. I love flowers. And trying to find a way to make it all work together can be a challenge at times, but it's also really rewarding when you get it right. Red and green are colors that occur together in nature all the time or at Christmas time. It's a really pleasing combination, but to keep it from looking too much like the holidays, we bring in a lot of blue and trying to use almost every color in our house, but definitely big fans of green here and using red in these pops to just kind of bring some more movement into the room. So in our living room, the things that really kind of give it that Tudory feel that we talked about, we have this fireplace that's a really unique shape. We've got a lion medallion over the top that is just kind of wild. And then this light fixture that has been here since we moved in. I don't know that it's what I would have chosen, but it's really fun, like I said, to balance all of these different pieces and make something that's old feel like it fits right into the room. It also, you need something big to work with these beams. We've got quite a bit of ceiling height in here, and this is the tallest room in the house probably. So I thought it would be really fun to do a gallery wall of our largest art, and we went through what we had and tried to find some color themes that were common. And I usually mock up everything on Photoshop and Illustrator to get a sense of scale. So we took pictures of all of the pictures and made an artboard that was the same size as the wall. And then I tried a bunch of different configurations just to see what would work. Initially we had a small gallery wall, and by small I mean it probably stopped at this tree painting, but we've added more as we've lived here and just love the way it flows into the entry. We have a mix of art on this wall that's from family. This tree painting up here was done by my husband's grandfather. We have art from friends, like this is a Monica Garwood watercolor painting that I really love. We also have a really cool drawing of the house that my husband's dad and aunt grew up in. And it's not far from here in Kansas City, and it's the house where those ancestors over there used to be. So that's a high school art class project from his aunt that we have framed. Mixed in a few other things, I made these floral pieces. Everything else we've had either thrifted or found at estate sales or been lucky enough to inherit. I found this big mirror on Facebook Marketplace when I was looking for something. Needed a mirror to go over this table, and I'd never seen anything quite like it. I've seen a lot of gilded mirrors for sure, but this green color makes it really feel special and maybe reduces the gold by a little bit. There's no such thing as too much gold, probably, but definitely wanted to temper it. So this is the entry table when you first walk in. We've got matches on it from our wedding. We ordered so many of them that we really just try to give them to anyone who comes to our house. So got a whole bunch of those, and just a place to set things down when you first walk in. We are lucky enough to have 2 fireplaces in our house, but only one actually works. This one was gonna cost an arm and a leg to repair. So we just have some nice birch logs in there in place. I found some andirons at an estate sale, and it feels cozy enough without us having to light them. We have a huge mix of mostly old in our house. This is a chair I found on the curb when I lived in Brooklyn. There's always great finds on the streets of New York when trash day comes, and so I loved this chair. It was one of the few things that I moved with me from Brooklyn to Kansas City a few years ago. I thought it was such a great shape, and one day I turned it over, to look at it, and it's from IKEA. So it just has a great shape, but kind of balances out all of that's happening on this wall and is a good place to set a bag. We also have this barometer on the wall. This is from, again, my husband's grandparents had this house, and this was hanging in it. So I don't believe that it works, and if it was, I wouldn't really know how to read it, but it's a beautiful shape and a beautiful piece. So I've worked as a designer for the last dozen years or so. I'm also an artist, and I think combining those 2 disciplines in creating a home has been really fulfilling. Thinking about problem solving from a design perspective and then adding my own vision from an art perspective. Combining those 2 things in this home has been incredibly rewarding. A lot of times I am thinking about decorating the space almost as a collaboration with what was already here in the home. So I love architectural details. We've got some really cool arches in the house, and just paying attention to the materials and what would really make the room look its best has been a great challenge. And it's also felt like a really good jumping off point. It's been easier to make decisions because we have a certain number of restrictions at the beginning. I would definitely define my style as eclectic. I think it's a little bit traditional, but it's also a ton of vintage. and thrifted things. And so I think it's just, I don't know how I would describe it, but it's kind of like assembled or curated or collected, but definitely love old things. And now we're gonna head to the dining room. Welcome to the dining room. We love to eat in this house, and we love to have people over to eat. This is a great place to sit for hours and enjoy a meal. We have left the leaf in the table just because it's easier that way to add a couple more chairs. It's also a formal feeling space. Dining rooms are inherently formal, but we wanted it to be really comfortable too. These are chairs from Nebraska Furniture Mart, actually, a local hit. They're really comfortable, and they have this great blue color that we were fortunate enough to find in this rug that is from an estate sale. There's an antiques dealer here in town who's moving to Scottsdale and closing up shop, and I got 2 rugs on an impulse. This is one of them. It has orange, which is so great, and then this teal blue, which goes well with these chairs. And we pulled that same blue up and painted the ceiling in here. This is a lower ceiling than either the family room or the living room, and I wanted it to feel like the room was holding you a little bit. Anybody who's spent any time in Italy has been to the cathedrals, and they have these incredible starry sky ceilings, among many other beautiful decorative details. And I thought it would be so fun to bring that in here. So this is a lighter blue. It's Denim's blue from Farrow & Ball. And I used a vinyl cutter to cut out these different stars, and then we plotted them on the ceiling. My husband helped me do a bunch of math and a bunch of angles to get it the way that we wanted. But it's just a really fun detail if you look up. It adds a lot of texture to the space. This light fixture is another great choice that we inherited from the previous owners. Definitely has a lot more modern lines, which made it easy to keep in here. There's this really cool plaster medallion on the ceiling, and the juxtaposition of these really straight lines, kind of like a mid-century feeling, works to me really well. It kind of helps bring in some of these different eras of furniture in our space. This is a really cool piece of art that my husband bought on a trip to Croatia before we got together. We've hung it here with another thin mirror. It's the perfect size for this little spot on the other side of the arch. Love to hang a million things on the wall. We found these folk art spoons at an estate sale, and they seemed to be a good fit for the dining room, although we have never used them to eat. And over here we have our bar. It's in a cabinet that, once again, found it at an estate sale. And we love to make cocktails at the end of the day, and so we keep the stuff we grab the most up here and then, overstock down below. The cocktails that we make the most here are Manhattans and dirty martinis. The Manhattan, we've been trying out this really fancy vermouth. Feels like it really elevates the drink. So we love a classic martini, dirty, with a blue cheese stuffed olive. And my husband was not a gin drinker before we got together, and I've tried to push him in that direction. And so a lot of times we'll do half vodka, half gin. That's like customary in a Vesper martini. But we do that in our dirty martini, and we call it the Rob Thomas because it's smooth, like that song with Carlos Santana. It's very silly. But if you ask for a Rob Thomas at our house, that's what you'll get. This is an ice bucket that I found at an estate sale, and I loved the color and the shape. And so I brought it home and painted this repeating floral pattern on it. A lot of times when I'm stuck on client work, I like to procrastinate by painting on top of things. You saw that with the chair in the living room. But it's always nice to have an ice bucket handy when guests come. This photograph that we have framed over the bar is from Ha Ha Tonka State Park in the Ozarks. My husband's family has been going to the Ozarks since he was in first grade. And this is an old estate that burned down that's at the top of this kind of crazy hill. It's quite a hike that we take from time to time, but have this large photo, and it just reminds us of the times that we love at the Ozarks. We've got a trivet up above, a wedding gift. I love hanging two things together, and this kind of activated the space above the photograph. We could use it if we wanted. We could grab it and pull it down. But it's nice to have some sculptural elements mixed in with photographs and framed artwork. These chairs are another Facebook Marketplace find. I reupholstered them with some fabric from Joann's, but they blend in well with these blue chairs we've got, and we can pull these up whenever we have more guests. On either side of the cabinet, we have these pieces of art that were a gift I made for my husband for Christmas a couple of years ago. When we were pulling out art for the living room, we found these really cool brass rubbings that his grandparents had made on their honeymoon, and they are so tall. They are like 8 feet tall by 5 feet wide. And we would love to hang them in our house someday, but they were astronomical to frame. And in the meantime, I basically made a version that we could hang in our dining room. So this is, I think it's the bishop and his wife is what they call them. But so I drew, this was a really fun project for me because I got to draw the rubbing, and then I framed and I cut the frame myself. This china cabinet is one of the biggest furniture purchases my husband and I made when we got married. We registered for a lot of beautiful dishes. I didn't think I would be a china pattern person until I saw how cool the china patterns are now. We have a mix in our what we registered for, but we have these really pretty bird plates that have this great orange color, and then we put a malachite bread plate on top of them, and they're just so pretty. We wanted to have a place to store them, but we also we wanted to show them because they're just such pretty pieces of art in their own right. And we also have a bunch of great glassware that we do use when we make cocktails. So we've got different coupes. This is our really pretty martini glass that we love to use. Keeping them here, it makes it really easy to access. This we found at a stretch of antique stores on 45th Street near State Line. And this really old man has tons and tons of furniture. And it's almost like a tinderbox in there. There's no way that they're passing the fire code. This was under a ton of other stuff, and it had been fully restored. It has lights on the inside, and we went back and forth. We'd been looking all over for something that would fit in this room, and this is really just became the perfect piece. It has similar shape. It feels kind of Tudor-y like our house, and so it's a great place to store things that we use and also just appreciate. There is some space on top of the hutch, and so we kind of shuffle this out from time to time. At Christmas, we put a ton of candlesticks up here and, your classic Christmas village. But we have this, we were given this anniversary clock by my parents on our first wedding anniversary. I believe it belonged to my mom's grandparents. It's a clock that you only have to wind once a year. We have a lot of clocks in our house. This one we kind of just let look pretty. We've got our Lego salt and pepper shaker's really handy. Some vases, another ice bucket, and this was a gift from Thomas on our anniversary. It's our china pattern, but in this really pretty bowl. My go-to design tip for people decorating their homes would be to just go to a lot of estate sales and start figuring out what you love, and bring home things that aren't too precious, and then you can start playing with those things with your other objects. It's been really fun to bring in vintage pieces and with stuff we already had, and I think older pieces just make a house feel more like a home. I think a house has the most soul when it reflects the people who live there, when it reflects their histories, their heirlooms, but when it also reflects their current interests and the things that really bring them joy. So I hope that our home really showcases what we are passionate about and how we like to spend our time, but also really is a comfortable place for people to be. And now we're going to leave the dining room and head to the kitchen. Welcome to our kitchen. We spend a ton of time in here. One of my favorite things in our kitchen is the hardware that we have on our cabinets. We were lucky enough to inherit these from my husband's aunt when she redid her kitchen. They were my favorite things she had in her kitchen, and I feel so lucky that we get to have them. We've got a peas, we've got carrots, corn, a banana. The main thing is you just don't want to catch your belt loop on them, but they are these really pretty brass, almost sculptures, and they're really fun. A project that we finished pretty recently was replacing the backsplash in our kitchen to make it kind of feel in line with what was happening in the rest of the house. We wanted a square tile. We wanted a little bit of color. It's kind of hard to find now. Most things are just gray or white. But we found this lovely green with a little bit of movement, and did a grid pattern here, and then did this like diamond lattice over here. This is a pretty narrow kitchen. If there's 2 people in here, you're definitely bumping butts. So we didn't want to put anything on the front of our fridge, but luckily we had this great space on the side of it, and we installed cork board. And this is a way that we can pin up all of our favorite family pictures and little mementos. We've got all of the sonogram pictures from when our son was about to be born. And it's just a nice layer of warmth, and fun to just have guests come over and, you know, stare and find different things about us on the board. This runner is from Rejuvenation. It was a Christmas present a couple of years ago. And it has these really great colors that show up all over our house. And then it's a really good geometric pattern. I feel like because I love floral patterns so much, I'm always trying to balance them with a little bit of geometry. And this rug does a lot of work in our kitchen. My mom was kind enough to help us sew this Roman shade over the kitchen window. It kind of softens some of the light that comes in and also softens all of these hard surfaces we have in here. I picked out a fabric that had more organic things, but is still a geometric repeat. These are things that I'm always paying attention to, organic versus tile. And it adds just a really nice bit of color, counterbalances some of this green. There's a lot of green in our house. Now we're in the family room. It's completely connected to the kitchen, so we can all be sitting at the bar, but we also can be sitting in here on this big sectional. It's modular, so we can move it around, and a lot of times we scooch the ottoman in and just make it into a big cozy place to hang out and watch a movie. So we've got a lot of pillows. It's a way to blend more patterns, geometric and floral, at different sizes and scales. They're all picking up colors that I found in this fabric from a creative art supply restore that we have here in Kansas City. It's called Scraps, and people can donate all kinds of things, art supplies, fabric, etc. And I help them roll fabric a lot on Fridays, and I found some really good fabric there. I would say probably 80% of the pillows that I've sewn, I used fabric from Scraps. So we have this tray that we leave on the ottoman most of the time, and it holds our remote and some books that we like to look at. Like I mentioned earlier, I love adding round shapes wherever possible, and so I loved the scallop wavy edge on this tray. This lamp was a Facebook Marketplace find. I saw the thumbnail and knew that the shape was really great, and when I went to pick it up, it was so big, and the scale of a lamp is, you know, really important and sometimes hard to find. So I was very thrilled to bring this home. It sits on this table and brings a lot of ambient light to this space. The lamp and these ducks I thrifted are sitting on top of a table runner made by the artist Hilary Sproat. She did this in collaboration with Unison Home in Chicago probably 10 years ago. It's such a bold print, but it works surprisingly well, and I love seeing it every day. It's on top of a really good vintage table, another family hand-me-down, and we have 2 bentwood chairs on either side. These chairs and then that IKEA chair in the living room are the 3 chairs that I brought with me when I moved from New York. I only brought books, art, and 3 chairs. So it's been a really fun challenge to accumulate and find things that I love at good price points. That's why I love estate sales and thrifting. Facebook Marketplace, you can find better quality things that are older. Just feels like for the same price as what I might pay West Elm, you can find something that's much better quality. One of the best features in our family room is this huge wall of bookcases. When we moved in, they were painted like kind of this cool gray. There were all these different temperatures of gray in our family room when we moved in. So one of the first things we did was paint them this lovely shade of green. We went through so many swatches. At one point, even considering a color that was actually called compromise green. I actually don't remember what color we landed on, but we painted them in a high gloss and added new hardware and have filled them with all of our favorite things. It was definitely a challenge styling this many shelves. We started in here before putting anything anywhere else in the house because we wanted to showcase some of our favorite things, and we knew we'd be looking at it a lot. So we invited some friends over. One of them was very tall. We got a ladder, and we, over the course of an evening, filled out all of the shelves. It's almost like an I Spy kind of experience if you're sitting on the couch. We have a mix of animals. I'm drawn to hands. I feel like I've purchased my fair share of hands. And then we have some blue and white ceramics that kind of bounce your eye around. We also have a ton of books. We keep our cookbooks in here. We have some of these really pretty, love pretty books. There's a collection from Barnes & Noble that some friends of mine and then I have made a few copies of. So it's fun to see the work of friends mixed in here with our complete collection of, Harry Potter. We've got family photos and just a mix of lots of clocks, candles, that kind of thing. This big clock is actually a piece of decor from our wedding. We got married on New Year's Eve and had this as our countdown clock. It's very lightweight and very large. It's like foam core and some modeling clay. And it's something that my husband and I made in the months leading up to our wedding. And a couple of years ago around Christmas, we were decorating and we hung it up as part of our holiday decor and have left it ever since. It's just a fun thing to remember, and it fits really well on the chimney. We have a lot of clocks in our house. This one is pretty special. This is a daily wind that was in that house that I talked about that my husband grew up going to, and his grandma would let him wind it and chime it every day, and now he winds it every day for us. What I love most about our home is that we get to share it with people we love. It's definitely been a labor of love to create a space that is welcoming and warm and represents all of our interests and ideas. And I just love that we get to share it with our family and friends. It's a comfortable place for people to be. I love all of the rooms in our home for different reasons. I definitely have thought about every detail in each room. I especially do love this living room though. These seats behind me are a really great place to sit in the morning with a cup of coffee, but it's also a place that we like to have drinks in the evening. It's a more formal room, but it also is really a great place to be. Leading upstairs, I added this it's a peel and stick wallpaper with a design that I made. It's inspired by some steps we saw at the Hearst Castle in California on a road trip. Kansas City also has a bunch of tiled steps in the Country Club Plaza, so it's kind of a fun nod to where we are. And this is upstairs. Welcome to our primary bedroom. This is the only bedroom upstairs, and it's where we sleep. A few projects that we did in here, we painted for sure. And we also applied this panel molding. The wall color is a really nice soft green. And we were kind of in disagreement about which shade of soft green to do. And so we have the walls in lichen, and then this slightly darker shade is called Trayron. They're both Faro and Ball colors on the trim. And that's in a semi-gloss, which is just a nice extra layer of dimension. I think using those two tones almost makes it seem even like to have more movement. And that darker color is also on these built-ins that are on this wall. The built-ins cover some HVAC stuff, and were very difficult to figure out how to fill out because they're very shallow. So at some point we decided, what if we moved our bed from the wall where it was supposed to be and put it on this wall? So I sewed these curtains with some fabric that I found at scraps. I thrifted the fabric. I was really excited when I found it. It has a really cool floral pattern and lots of color that kind of helped to tie the whole room together. This bed was a pandemic purchase. I got a really great deal on Soho Home. It has so much personality and these huge posters. On the bed we have a quilt that's from a sample sale in New York City. It's a block print from India, mixed with linen sheets, some stuff from West Elm, and another big pillow that I sewed. I could have done just one stripe, and it is all stripe on the back, but I really loved breaking it up and splitting it and making kind of this like oversized checkerboard. The red shows up in a few places, green and red. Again, it's like one of the most challenging color combinations to get right, but I think so satisfying. I was just looking for some red side tables to go with our wood bedding. I found this huge frame at an estate sale, and we all know big art is hard to find. A bunch of family has grown up going to Cuttyhunk Island, and so framed this large iPhone picture, and when it was at the framers, somehow they kind of damaged it. They used a heat gun, and the colors got washed out. And on one hand, I was sort of frustrated, but it also has kind of a cool watercolor effect that we have really appreciated. And this is just a big piece of art to anchor this console table. The table itself is Facebook Marketplace find, and it's narrow, which I really appreciate because the angles can get a little tight in this room. I used a pattern paper I found on Etsy to cover these sconce shades. It's just a tiny little detail, but it's very pleasing. Now let's head to the hallway. Welcome to the hallway. We have this landing at the top of our stairs that was sort of dead space otherwise. We've got an office over here, but in this area leading into the primary bedroom, we wanted to fill it with art. We had all of this art between the two of us and needed a place to put it. So I love a really full gallery wall, obviously love to hang art. And this is a great mix of both of our pieces. I really love the Barnes Foundation in Philadelphia. I love the way that they hang artwork to complement each other and to create interest in pairings. So even if you're just looking at, even if you don't know what you're looking at, you can find patterns. So we have like two flowers by different artists next to each other. We have these two ladies together, one's eating pasta and one's like a formal painting, and just blended a whole bunch of things together on one wall. This really big piece is a poster that I got a long time ago from some artists in Chicago. Catherine Walker is the name of the lady who did it. And she did a series of posters that were entire texts of books. So this is The Wizard of Oz laid out on one poster. I want to say this is like, 3-point size type, but if you wanted to, you could read the whole thing. I finally had this framed a few years ago, and it's fun to look at it every day. This is also a great spot for these two chairs that we have. Apparently, when you become a doctor, you can get a chair from your medical school, and my husband inherited his grandfather's and had it restored. This is his grandpa's chair, and then this is the chair that he got when he graduated from med school. We used this space at the top of the stairs for my husband's office, and it has these incredible eaves that really kind of come in on you. And when we first moved in, I thought it would be really fun to cover them in stripes. Just all of these different angles. It's like, wow, how many lines could we have? And we went through a bunch of different options of like what it could look like. And thankfully, my husband went for the most complicated option, and he was willing to help me because we did all of this with tape. So he spaced out the big stripes, and then I taped the tiny thin stripes in between. But we built all of these stripes off of this one main line through the dormer. So if you're standing in the center over here, it's kind of like a vortex. We painted all of these walls light blue from Farrow and Ball when we were trying to get the space started, and then decided to use the same trim color that's in the primary suite in the semi-gloss for the stripes. So there's some really good dimension depending on where you stand. This is the pink hallway that connects our guest room, our nursery, and the main floor bathroom. This is a space that gets passed through all the time, and I wanted it to feel special instead of gloomy. It doesn't have, gets light from all the other rooms. We found the perfect shade of this terracotta pink. It's Mexican tile by Sherwin-Williams, but would look so different in any other context. And I liked the idea of painting this border to kind of highlight the architectural details of the space. I love this arch, and then the pretty little ceiling with the medallion. And it connects really nicely to the main floor bathroom that has a little pink border going around. Welcome to the main floor bathroom. This blue tile was absolutely one of my favorite things when we first saw the house. The pink border was actually painted black, but we scrubbed off that paint and found this really fun pink peachy color underneath. I used these colors as a starting point to come up with a really cool wallpaper pattern to paint on these walls. So we painted the base this dark blue and then built a color palette around the blue tile that we have here, and the peach color shows up in a few different places. I probably worked on this over the course of 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. It was a really fun project, and it was something I would, every night after we ate dinner, I would be like, I'm gonna go paint a little bit in the bathroom. But it's generally a repeating pattern, but then it's customized to fit the space. So we have really cool tulips coming up over the archway in the shower, and just details that frame the space. Welcome to our baby's nursery. I really love oversized food objects and had collected enough that when we were talking about what would be a good theme to tie it all together, we realized a very hungry caterpillar would be the way to go. Love Eric Carle's illustrations, and found it really inspiring to bring together a lot of different food-themed art and pillows for his room. This great tomato print by Bill Rebels is just like a really playful take on tomatoes, and just a mix of art from friends and people that I found online, just a good collection of things. The other favorite art in here is this big grocery store signage. Was looking at stuff for his gallery wall and thought grocery store signage would be really fun, and found some sign painters in Chicago who will customize and paint anything for you at a great price. That's just a fun detail about it. And they were able to they made this just for us and updated the price to reflect the year our son was born. But the Chicago original Big Baby Cheeseburger. My husband and I both went to school in Chicago and love it, love the city. This giant ear of corn was a Christmas gift a couple of years ago. I love it. Surprisingly versatile. It's lived in every room of our house almost, but it works really well in here for the very hungry caterpillar. I put it next to this table that I found online. They're both kind of corn shaped, and of course have a big pasta shaped trivet. We have a big shrimp, we've got a tomato lamp, we've got a hot dog lamp, we've got all kinds of jumbo food in this room. Welcome to the entryway of our home. It's a really small space, but I love a wallpapered entry and wanted to find a way to do that for myself. Because this wall connects to the main wall in the living room, there was a limit to where the pattern could go. And so I created a floral pattern kind of based on the width of this door frame and the angle of the leaded glass in here. It's a really subtle pattern. It almost feels like a shadow, but it's this pale periwinkle that I painted all of the leaves on. Another project that took me a couple of weeks. Just every night I'm gonna go paint a few more leaves. Is a really fun juxtaposition with this organic floor that's original to the home. Welcome to the guest room. This room has gotten a lot of use since our son was born a few months ago. It's a really happy space with the soft pink walls. It's hard to say for sure where the color palette came from completely, but we have estate sale art that captures it perfectly with the green, yellow, and peach. We've got a thrifted mirror that my sister-in-law sent me from Denver that was the perfect shade of yellow. But mostly we were trying to incorporate this stained glass mirror that was a privacy feature original to the home at some point. It's kind of an unusual combination of colors, and painting the room and bringing in more color really helped it recede and not be quite as prominent when the walls were white. I made this headboard myself because I really wanted an upholstered headboard on this bed, and designed the fabric to kind of complement everything else we had going. So I used spoon flour to produce a good number of yardage, and then I got a jigsaw for my birthday and cut out the shape of the wavy headboard and sewed a dust ruffle to match. We have another fun lamp that I found at an estate sale and thought that the shade would be a really fun one to paint using some of the same colors in the room. I actually don't have a lot to say about it now that I'm here, but it's hand painted. Home to me is a place where we feel safe and a place where we can express our ideas and interests. I think it's also something that we share with others. And so I love thinking about home as something that belongs not just to me, but to those I love. Homeworthy, it was really fun showing you around our house in Kansas City, but it's time for lunch. See you later.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.